In a dark void, sand drops through the neck of an hourglass into a heaped pile. The last grain slows in the air, then bursts into cosmic light. The light pulses and myriad galaxy clusters resolve in an abyss. One galaxy spirals radiantly in the dark.
Hey everyone, my name is Ross Miner. I'm a blind game accessibility consultant, and welcome to the new era of Mortal Kombat, both with accessibility and with the story. I've been very excited about this game for a long time. For anyone who's new to my channel, or for anyone who's OG on the channel, I should say, the very first video I uploaded to this channel was actually about how I play Mortal Kombat. And that video resulted from an Ask Me Anything I did on Reddit, where people were curious about how I played. So I uploaded the video and it blew up. And somehow NetherRealm Studios, the people who make Mortal Kombat, saw the video and bought me an Xbox One, signed it, and sent it to me just so I could play Mortal Kombat. Because at the time, I don't think I had a PC that could run it. I don't remember the details. It was back when I was in high school. In fact, you can hear that video right here. I was very young.
Hey guys, my name is Ross Miner, and I'm blind. I'm going to be showing you guys how I play Mortal Kombat X.
But yeah, it was just really cool of NetherRealm to do that. So huge shout out to them for just bringing so much accessibility to this game. You can also find me streaming this game on my Twitch, just twitch.tv/RossMiner. Also, a quick plug, I'm actually going to be speaking at the Game Accessibility Conference in like a week, and my talk is actually going to be on the audio description of Mortal Kombat. Spoiler, Mortal Kombat has audio descriptions. But if you want to check that out, I will put a link right here. If it's not there, then the video hasn't gone live. If it is there, then feel free to watch it. Feel free to like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff. But without further ado, let's jump into the accessibility of Mortal Kombat 1.
A title appears over a vista of mountains and red-leafed trees surrounding a shimmering lake. Mortal Kombat 1.
And so yeah, this game is very accessible, and by far the most accessible Mortal Kombat game yet. I have to give a huge shout out to Brandon Cole, also known as Super Blind Man, and Carlos Vasquez, also known as OBS Rattlehead, who were the accessibility consultants for this game. And they certainly did their job, because there are so many accessibility features to talk about. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of all the accessibility features that I haven't even talked about yet, I just want to say that I love how no matter which version of the game you buy, whether it's PC, PlayStation, Xbox, or even Switch, if you want to buy it for Switch, all the accessibility features will be there. There's complete feature parity across all platforms, which is just huge, and it is so noteworthy. I just had to point that out. Something I wanted to quickly mention that I almost forgot to is that Brandon and Carlos have said accessibility will be expanded upon post-launch of the game, which is very cool to see, because obviously there's room for improvement, and I think we're all excited to see that. But just figured I would preface that before we jump into all of the accessibility features, just so you guys have that in mind. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, audio descriptions. I'm sure you heard them as the video started, but in case anyone skipped over them or was kind of confused by them, audio descriptions are a secondary audio track that plays over the main audio track that contain a professional narrator describing everything visual on the screen that blind people would otherwise miss. And this is just huge, because it's only recently that games started adding audio description, starting with The Last of Us Part 1. Full disclosure, the company that does this audio description is Descriptive Video Works, and I have consulted for them on a variety of occasions, but not with this at all. So this is completely just my own thoughts. I'm not sponsored by anyone. I don't even have a review code of the game or anything like that. These are all just my thoughts. But the number one question you probably have is, well, where do the audio descriptions play in the game? So in games like The Last of Us Part 1, audio descriptions only played during the strictly cinematic cutscenes, not even in-game cinematic cutscenes, just cinematic cutscenes. But Mortal Kombat takes it way further than that, because there are audio descriptions throughout the entire campaign, as well as audio descriptions for super moves, and most importantly, fatalities. fatalities can just not be understated, because that's like half of what Mortal Kombat is, right? Just these brutal, gory, and oftentimes over the top fatalities that Mortal Kombat is iconic for. And now blind people get to experience them in their entirety. In the past, blind gamers had to look up text descriptions of these fatalities, and oftentimes they would be pretty inaccurate, but now all of that can be viewed right from within the game. So I figured I would show you guys an example of a fatality, and how could I not choose our favorite blind swordsman, Kenshi.
With a flick of his wrist, Kenshi magically immobilizes his victim. Their head is forced backward to watch as Sento drills down their throat. Kenshi lifts his victim into the air, and Sento withdraws to slice them open from pelvis to skull.
Fatality. Kenshi wins. Flawless victory.
That's all I'm going to show for the case of audio descriptions. I could show a scene from the campaign, but I would rather just entirely avoid any sort of spoilers whatsoever. Next, moving on to the big one, text-to-speech. That's right, this game has a screen reader. So I'll just get out of the way because a lot of people have been saying this, but the screen reader is not amazing, but there are many reasons for that.
Campaign, story, fight your way through a cinematic story. The button confirm, left and right, select campaign.
But yeah, you can't adjust the speed, the pitch, the type of voice. You can adjust the volume and turn it on and off, but that's about it really. Quick post-editing clarification. It's like 1 in the morning right now, but I just wanted to clarify that when I said people were saying the screen reader isn't amazing, I'm mainly referring to how it sounds, like the sound quality, as well as the customizability of it. The screen reader actually does read a lot in the game. Obviously there's more it could read, but it reads a very notable and important chunk. So I just wanted to clarify that. Anyway, bye. And like I said previously, accessibility is going to be expanded upon in this game, and Brandon and Carlos have told the community to look forward to additional updates to the screen reader. As for the reason why the screen reader is so quote unquote poor is because it is very difficult to implement a screen reader across all platforms, because they're all different operating systems and they all operate under different technologies and things like that. And so being able to even have a screen reader across all platforms is huge. But because of that, it also sacrifices, some customization of the screen reader that maybe people are typically used to. That being said, I would much rather have this screen reader than any other, because it is just so helpful in so many ways. First being that, of course, it reads all of the menus and the options and things like that. But more importantly, it reads things such as frame data. For anyone that doesn't know what frame data is, I'll try my best to explain it. But basically, every move, attack, animation in the game has a certain amount of startup frames, active frames, things like that, that basically dictate how fast your character can move while they're fighting. And so this is really important when you begin playing on a higher level, knowing which moves are safe and which moves will cause you to be punished by your opponent and allow them to, perform a full combo on you. Well, text-to-speech reads frame data, and so now I can just go into the moves and read all of that data right from within the game. In the past, blind gamers had to go online and look up frame data. Again, a lot of the time it would be inaccurate, or other times it would be accurate, but it would be outdated because a patch would come out changing some, balancing the characters and changing some of the frame data on the characters. So that was a big reason why I never really stuck with Mortal Kombat just year round, was just because of the learning curve. But now that curve has been made so much easier. I'm definitely going to stick with the game for much longer this time. But yeah, there are also other things that the screen reader reads. I can't cover them all, obviously, but it reads things about which characters you're about to fight. It reads the character selection screen and things like that. Now let's move on to sounds, because NetherRealm Studios has always been really good at sound design, but this time they just home run, blew it out of the water. Whatever term you want to use, they did it. It's incredible. And I mean, there are literally sound cues for everything. And so I figured it would be best if I just boot up the game, put on my headphones, and showed you guys in real time what the sounds sound like. Okay, so right here you have all the standard audio sliders that you would expect to see in a AAA game. So master volume, music volume, ambiance volume, cinematics volume, all of those, which is great. But on top here, you'll see that there is a, what is it called? Audio test. And what this does is allow you to hear what all of your audio presets or sliders are going to sound like in a fight, which is just so good on so many levels. Instead of having to go back and forth constantly tweaking, now you can just do it all from within the options. Scrolling down more, we get into a bit more specific sound cues, and these are categorized as detailed audio effects. So there's hit sounds, boom, like that. There's fighter movement, so you can hear where the fighter is. It's really cool. And then there's localization, basically grunts. Yeah, see, I could be a voice actor. That alone is really great to have that customization for blind gamers, but NetherRealm took it so much further. So I'm at the top of this list of all the accessibility sound cues that you can fiddle with that will give you so much more information as you're playing. The first one being gameplay modifiers. I'm not totally sure what this means. I think it is sound cues for when you're playing and there are specific challenges. I think those are the sound cues. So here's an example. So again, I haven't played enough of the game to actually hear this sound, but I'm sure it will be useful at some point. Next, you can adjust the volume of special moves, which is always very, very nice. You can change the volume of the environmental detail. This one I find interesting because I'm curious how it is different to ambiance, because as you can tell if you turn it up, some things get louder. I think the ambiance gets louder, so I'm not totally sure. And then you can change the volume of the fight HUD or heads-up display. Basically, whenever you have meter or can use a fatal blow, this sound will help you out. So that's really, really nice. And I actually misspoke previously. This is the start of the accessibility list. It's kind of a little confusing how they have the sliders categorized, or maybe I'm just not paying attention. I'm recording this at like nighttime, literally. But anyway, this is the beginning of the accessibility sliders. First one being distance between fighters. This one is huge because it will play a sound based on how close you are to the character. So what I mean by that is like when you get closer, it'll start to play sound faster. When you get further, it'll start to play it slower. And here's what the sound sounds like. And so that's a very neutral sound, but as you fight, you know, it could go or I don't know if you could hear that. That probably wasn't the best example, but there you go. You'll hear it when I show you guys the audio test. I'm definitely gonna show that so you can hear all the accessibility sounds in action. Here's a health meter. You can have sounds for when you reach, I believe, 75, 50, and 25%, but that's what it sounds like. This is really nice though, because if you've ever been in a very tedious or, you know, really close fight, when both players are on very, very low health, you start to play much more conservatively, start to throw out projectiles and just kind of really avoid your opponent. In the past, you know, being blind, you could kind of gauge how much health you had, but other times it's just hard to tell, and so you'd end up maybe like sacrificing some health when you really couldn't afford to. So a great addition. This one is my favorite because it plays a sound when you reach the end of the arena. And this is huge because you can set up some really brutal combos when you have your opponent in the corner. And so this is what the sound sounds like. Then there are sounds for ducking. Very self-explanatory. It's a little hard to hear with the clicking, but you'll hear it in the fight. It kind of sounds like boop, boop. Kind of a lower tone when they're ducking, and then a regular when they pop back up. Kind of the same for blocking. There are blocking sounds when they're blocking, and then when they lower their block, that's what this sounds like. This one I also love, and that is hit type. It will play a sound based on the type of attack you are being hit with. So it will play sound based on low, medium, high, or overhead. And this is so huge because in the past, at least for me, I can't speak for other blind gamers. For me, I really struggled knowing what type of attacks I was being hit with. And so this has just made adapting in the middle of a fight so much easier and learning the matchups so much better. I was playing, I think, yeah, my very first match on ranked or combat league, I was getting just mocked. I almost got 3-0'd, and then I literally turned it around because I was able to adapt to the audio cues, and I could realize what attacks I was being hit by and which ones I was failing to block, and I ended up winning the entire match or round. I get my terminologies confused. But here is what they sound like. All of those sounds correspond to a specific type of attack. Okay, then there are sounds for navigation assistance. And you're probably like, well, what navigation is there in Mortal Kombat? Well, there is a mode called Invasions, and it's kind of like, I think, RPG kind of roguelike, if I could describe it. But there are different nodes you can navigate to. Well, there are sound cues for an objective that, or how do I describe this? There are sound cues for a path that has an objective, a sound cue for a path that you can take that doesn't have an objective, a sound cue for no path, and then a sound cue for a path that is locked. And so this is what they sound like. And so yeah, all of those sounds mean something. And I also want to quickly plug Super Blind Man's video. He created a tutorial video for blind people to play Invasions. It's kind of out of the scope of this accessibility review, but I'm going to link it right here if you want to go check that out. I listened to it and it helped me out a ton. So, feel free to check that out. It's an amazing resource. So that concludes all of the audio cues. Let's hear them all in action. I am so excited for you all to hear this. I'm going to first let you guys listen, and then I'm going to kind of describe what I'm hearing so I can, translate it, because there's a lot going on. You'll see.
Fight!
The fire rises.
Dead as winter.
Okay, now let's listen to those. I'm going to describe what's going on.
Fight!
Okay. So listen, you can hear the distance. Right now they're very close. Oh, on the left, you can hear they're on the edge of the stage. They're close on the left here. Now they're back in the middle. They're still very, very close. Oh, they got hit by mid and then a high. Mid. Oh, that was an overhead. Oh, low hits right there, and they're on the right side of the stage. Isn't that just incredible that I was able to tell what was going on just by the sounds? And it's so amazing. I mean, like, I could be a Mortal Kombat commentator if I wanted to, because it was just so easy to tell what was going on once you get a hang of the sound cues. One thing I wanted to mention is that there is another specific sound cue that I really, really like. I don't think it's specifically an accessibility sound cue because it's not in the sliders, but there is a sound that plays whenever a round or a match ends. Like I said, I get the terminology confused, but I think it's a round. So the first round of a fight, there can go up to 3 rounds of a fight. So basically, whenever a round ends, there is a sound cue that plays, and I find that really, really helpful, at least for me. I could just be, a scrub, right? But I find it helpful to know that I don't have to keep mashing, or I don't have to worry about blocking. I know that the round is over. I can kind of recuperate and get back into the fight. But I'll just play a quick example of what that sounds like right here. But that pretty much wraps up my blind accessibility review of Mortal Kombat 1. However, I wanted to highlight a few other accessibility features that are in the game, such as subtitles, and these subtitles can be resized. However, that's really about it as far as customization. And then there are also color blindness presets, as well as a slider to adjust the intensity of those color blindness presets, which I think is really, really cool to have intensity for that. But yeah, this is by far the most accessible Mortal Kombat game. Huge shout out to Brandon, Carlos, and NetherRealm Studios for working together to make this game what it is. If I had to rate it 1 out of 10, I would say 8.5 as it is right now. And if, you know, accessibility is continuously being improved upon, like we have been told, I would give this game a 10 out of 10. Like not even joking, like not even being ironic. Like there's just so many good accessibility features. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up my review. Keep an eye out for my other reviews, because in October, Forza 8 is coming out, the very first accessible racing game. I'm going to be streaming that. Well, never mind, it won't matter because this video is going up after that. But yeah, Forza 8 is coming out very soon, as well as Spider-Man 2, which both of these I'm going to be doing accessibility reviews on. So keep an eye out for those. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this game. If you've played it, if you haven't, what your thoughts are on the accessibility. I'd love to hear it in the comments. But with that being said, this game has been a flawless victory. See what I did there? Anyway, okay. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much for watching.